So dear friends and colleagues, welcome to today's webinar. Today was more of an in-house webinar, but we decided to make an extended invitation. And so we'll be beginning in a few minutes, probably in the next 3 minutes as we admit a few more of our colleagues who are in the waiting room. Dear colleagues, welcome to today's meeting. As you get an admission, kindly make sure your device is on mute for the sake of order. Thank you very much. We'll be beginning in a few minutes as we wait just slightly a few more people to join in. Then we should be beginning probably in the next, I think, Dennis, you can begin by 7:15 sharp. That is the next 2 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, in her periods. So anasema nimekuwa kule bora male. It's like
Okay, and so we will begin. Once again, dear colleagues, friends, welcome very much to today's webinar. Today's webinar has been organized by Passcode Global Consultants, and we have been having a series of webinars from last year, January, addressing the main theme or topic around global opportunities for nurses, especially Kenyan nurses and Africa by extent. And over the past few months, we've been focusing on NCLEX, the NCLEX exam, its structure, the smokes and the mirrors around it, and the smoking guns that as an individual you can use. And today it's an extended discussion of the same. And I believe I can see a number of us that have been in the previous webinars, and we truly appreciate your support and continuously coming to learn together with us. It's important to note that these webinars are offered free of charge. Passcode does not charge us the attendees any shilling for the information that we share, because we believe that with information, we as nurses are able to make an informed decision about our careers. A few housekeeping rules before we begin. Throughout the call, unless you are speaking, please ensure that your mic is on mute. Your video can be on, no problem, but ensure that your mic is on mute for the sake of order. Secondly, if you have any question throughout the meeting, kindly please type it in the chat box, and the speakers and the panelists will be able to address all the questions towards the end of of this session. And lastly, feel free to interact with one another in the chat box. To that end, I'm going to invite Dennis. Dennis, you'll introduce yourself, introduce to us what Passcode is, what Passcode does, before we handle the main topic of the day. Dennis, karibu sana.
Hello, thank you, Donald. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Dennis, we can hear you.
Welcome to today's webinar meeting. My name is Dennis Wako. I am the program admin at Passcode Global Consultants. I am excited to have you all today as we engage to learn and get more insights on one of our major programs that we do undertake as Passcode. So Passcode is, we deal with various programs. We do NCLEX program, that is we do train people for NCLEX exam. We also help in registration. That is, as you all know or you're about to know, is that before you do the NCLEX, there are some registration that you're supposed to do before you get the ATT now and be able to sit for the exam. We also do CV revamp. In case maybe you will require that services, you can feel free to reach out to us. We also do IELTS training. We offer physical classes and online classes as well. Majorly, today I want to talk about our NCLEX program. As you are aware, NCLEX program is as Passcode, we do NCLEX registration for our learners from the point of the CS report application to the point now when you are going to sit for the exam in either the various examination centers. So I'm going to leave our contact. I'm going to share the contact and the message. So in case maybe you want to reach out to us, you'll get our contact. Today we are privileged to have one former student who we did undertake the NCLEX program from registration until he tested. She's going to talk to you when time reaches. Basically, that is in a nutshell what Passcode entails. And I'm going to give you this chance. Donald. Hello, Donald.
All right. Thank you very much, Dennis, for that introduction. And it is always a pleasure meeting with you and in this forum to discuss together about these issues. So dear colleagues, today's webinar, as I had mentioned at the beginning, it was more of an in-house webinar, but we decided to make an extension. So I'm aware in the forum we have current students who are at the moment undertaking the NCLEX program with Passcode. In addition, we have other people who have attended who are potential students. There are others who have attended to gain information. And so while the speaker will be addressing the topic of the day, how to pass NCLEX, the tricks around it, she will be addressing both the current students that we have and you as a potential student or an individual who is looking to enroll for an NCLEX program. I will, to be fair to the speaker, I think I'll allow her to introduce herself, but you will notice that there's a spark in the way she introduces herself and the profile she bears. So without wasting time, Jerusha, feel very much welcome. If you have any question throughout the call, kindly please type it in the chat box and it will be able to be addressed towards the end of the call. Thank you very much. Jerusha?
Thank you, Garura, and thank you, Passcode, for having me come again and be able to share my experiences through the process, through my NCLEX journey. So my name is Jerusha Nyabiage Mogaka, and my basic training is in nursing. I did my bachelor's degree at the University of Washington. And I'm going to talk a little bit about myself so that you can relate, and also you can be able to glean in and figure out how you're able to fix in your NCLEX journey within my experiences. So I trained as a nurse at the University of Washington, and I did my internship at Kiambu County Hospital for 1 year. And after that, I navigated towards research for personal reasons. And currently I am a PhD student at the University of Washington, and I've also taken the I've also taken the NCLEX RN exam while I was here. And I trained, and Passcode were gracious enough to take me through all the processes from the beginning up to the tail end. I remember Dennis was the one who was running around processing my paperwork. In terms of coming to the US, I came to the US through a different means as a student, and I was able to mostly work with Passcode remotely while practicing the exam. So that is what I'm currently doing. So my plan for today is to talk about a few items. One, we're talking about NCLEX. Is it a passable exam? The second item we want to talk about is time management. How do you plan yourself? What amount of time do you have? You also have other responsibilities that come in, and you have to, because we have families, some of us are in school, and other responsibilities. And then the other thing is the use of the resources that you're available, ensuring that you're using them maximally and strategically. And then finally, would like to know, is it really worth it? So one of the things I would like, the last time I had this presentation, we had a few number of participants, and I allowed them to be able to talk and introduce themselves. But because of time, and since this is a big group, I'm going to suggest this. While I continue introducing myself in chunks so that you're not overwhelmed, and explain the processes, I would like everyone to go to their chat and type their why. What is your why? What do I mean? Why do you want to do the NCLEX? What is your motivation? So I just want you to write in one sentence, why do you want to do the NCLEX? What is your motivation to do the NCLEX? I ask this question because this is the basis of everything. I've interacted with quite a number of friends who've told me, oh, I want to do the NCLEX so that I can go to the US and be paid well. And that's where it ends up. It takes like a whole year. They're still preparing for a whole year, or sometimes they prepare and they decide to go do the exam and it doesn't go well, because NCLEX is a very hard exam. It's a passable one, but it's a hard one. But because their motivation, they didn't have like a strong motivation, they were not able to weave in all these items that you're talking about, like the time management and the use of resources and following through all the processes. So my why, to be sincere, bedside nursing hasn't been my passion for a very long time. And after I practiced, I realized bedside was not my thing. However, I was interested in research, and I was also interested in mentorship. So mostly I'm interested in being a lecturer, being able to teach other nurses, being able to focus on research. And when I got an opportunity to come study in the US, one of the requirements for you to practice in any level of nursing, which includes either being a faculty, which is a lecturer, or working in as a public health nurse, you need to do the NCLEX exam. So that is my motivation, and that is what motivated me to do the exam. The other motivation was that my visa processes were attached to this, so I had a timeline that I needed to have, and this allowed me to plan myself within. So is NCLEX a passable exam? Yes, it's a difficult exam. However, if you're strategic enough and you plan yourself well, you're able to pass it. One of the things that I've realized, and it was a challenge for me, was time management and other things coming in. At the time I was planning to do the exam, I did my exam last year in December. I started working on preparing for the exam in June. And at that time I was in school and I was doing 2 jobs at that time. And I was also having like some other assignments that I was working on. So I had to plan on figuring out a tentative date that I wanted to do the exam, which is very important. When do you want to do the exam? Setting a tentative date. And that doesn't really mean you have to do it then, but setting this tentative date is going to allow you to plan for the next processes. So my set date at that time was November. I said I want to do my exams in November, and I had November the 15th because I had end of term exams, midterm exams on November 20th. So I knew I would start preparing in June, and November 15th, I will do my exam. So that's where I started at. I had the time. And then from there, I developed a study plan. Very important, because this study plan allows you to map out how you're going to do things. I want to share my screen. I want to show you something. Okay. There you go. So hopefully you're able to see. Okay, there it is. So I had like a timetable and I mapped out. I know with Passcode, and Passcode will explain this to you at a later time if you join, when you join them, they give you like a list of resources to use, and one of the mostly known resources, the Sounders book. And I mapped out, I went to the Sounders book and I looked through all the topic areas that I needed to cover. And I had a timetable mapping out all the topics and how I wanted to cover and the days I wanted to cover. So I had this, and this, I mapped this out based on the time between June and November. And I also had to include like the questions for each topic area that I was doing. So when I talk about planning yourself and mapping up your time, this is what
excuse me, Jerusha, you're not able to see your share screen.
Oh, you're not. Oh, okay. Let me
maybe you can unshare, then try resharing.
Yeah, that should be okay. Let me know. Are you able to see my screen?
Okay, not yet. It's just telling us that Jerusha has started screen sharing.
Sorry about that. Once you see it, tell me.
I got it.
It's now okay.
Okay, perfect. So I mapped out, I had like a study plan where I mapped out the days that I was available and the topic areas that I was going to cover. So this allowed me to be able to cover all the things that were required. And at the same time, this aligned with what Passcode was teaching us at that time, so that I am able like to cover what we are covered in class and also cover it later. So that's why I have that. I'm gonna stop sharing and come back to this later. So I've talked about having like a study plan, and the study plan, as you looked at my example, it had the days that I was planning on studying, and also the time. That is, I haven't included the time aspect here, but you also have a goal. What topic area are you covering? And you have to know, like, the NCLEX exam has a different format. They have different ways of how they categorize. And Passcode has had a very nice way of categorizing the topic areas, and they'll be able to teach you on that. So when we talk about the timing, one of the important things I would recommend is to know your learning style. How well do you learn? Are you a visual person? Are you an auditory person? Do you work well in group discussions? For my case, I am mostly a visual person. I like writing down things. I had a book that I actually have the book here. I have 2 of these books that I was writing down my short notes. I do a lot of writing. I wrote down everything that I learned because I know when I write it down, I won't forget about it. So that is my learning style. If you are the person who you like visuals, you like drawing out sketches, that is good for you, especially if you're talking about like the medications, you like coded medication, you like using mnemonics, writing them down. I would recommend you go that way if that is your learning style. If you're an auditory person, you learn well by listening, then listen to lectures, online lectures. You can listen to podcasts. One of the podcasts that had been recommended was Simple Nursing. He has a free podcast on pharmacology. I used to listen to that every time I was on the bus or I was just walking. So you tend to capture, because they're very short audios, you're able to listen and grasp a few things. So if you're that person using resources that are mostly focusing on do the recordings will be helpful for you. If you work well in a group, I would recommend creating a discussion group. And one of the challenges with discussion groups is sometimes people might be consistent, sometimes they're not. Having people who have they already have a motivation and they know why they want to do these exams, so that they are consistently keeping up the timelines. And if you're working together, you've been given an assignment, they're able to, you can explore the group. I explored that for a while, but because of the time differences, I wasn't able to keep up with that. So I, at some point, reverted to doing it myself. And then you realize from the timetable that I shared, I also had questions. It's very important to hone in your test taking strategies. So you take exercises. They can be initially when you're starting off, because you're trying to understand this exam, it can be focused on the topic area. So you take a specific number of questions. For my case, I used to take every other day. Like I take today and then I skip for tomorrow. I take every other day 60 to 75 questions. They're very important, but that is not the important part. While it's good to take as many practice tests as possible, the most important thing is reviewing those questions, especially the ones that you failed, and remediating in each and every question that you took, trying to understand what were they thinking when they set this question, and what answer did they expect? What was the thought process from like the question and the responses? Why was each and every answer response that was given not correct? I realized from the NCLEX exams, all the responses are correct, but they are looking for the best answer, especially for the one that requires you to only choose one answer. They're looking for like the best possible answer you can choose. So when you're remediating and you're looking through how you responded, being able to go through all the questions that you did and all the responses so that you can know why and how they answered it. One of the questions I anticipate someone is going to ask me is what percentage or what number of questions do you need to do so that you can feel like now you're ready? I couldn't say there's a number. I used two resources. I used UWorld and I also used Simple Nursing. And for UWorld, I'm actually looking at it. I only used 58% of the question banks for UWorld. And at some point nearing the end of it all, Passcode told me I think I needed like to shift and use a different question bank just to have a different feel. And I bought the Archer's question bank, and it was around $28, only questions, no videos. And that one, I only used 15% of the questions. And I think it has 2,000 questions. And for me, what really was of value is how you respond to the question rather than the number of questions that you do, how you respond and how you remediate on these questions. So that brings me to the next item, which is investing on resources. It's very important when you're interacting with any person who recommends you doing the NCLEX or Passcode, when they recommend the resources, being able to use the resources maximally. You look through, when you Google, you'll find so many resources on NCLEX. Some of them are good, some of them are not really good, but no one will tell you unless they've taken exams and they've taken several question banks. They'll be able to tell you this is the best one. And I don't think this is a good fit for practicing. So being able to get those resources and focusing maximally on those, because sometimes you might be confused. You see so many things and you also want to do everything that you see. I don't think that is a strategic way of using it. What is more strategic is choosing a specific question bank and sticking to it to the tail end. For my case, I used UWorld from the beginning. So all my topic areas and questions were like, I was revising for sounders, I was using UWorld as a question bank. And I did that consistently, and at least it reached a point where I was getting around 70% for each question set that I did. But the first set of questions I did, especially for the first month, being that I was not in clinical practice for at least, I think it was around 7 years I hadn't practiced. I was performing very, very lowly. I was getting 30s, 40s, which was very discouraging. And I like the fact that Passcode also shared some other resources that were easy questions to motivate me. And after doing the easy questions, then I went back and continued with UWorld, because that is a long period. I think it was around 6 months of preparation. With time, I started like increasing the points. And I was mapping it out because I needed to know how I am progressing. So I'll go back and share my screen and show you how I mapped out. Let me see where it is. Are you able to see my screen? I have.
Yes, Jerusha.
Yes, so I mapped out how I was performing. You could see some of them are very low. We have like 40, 54, 47. I mapped out several. So I had this and I also had one. I can't remember where the other ones were. So I mapped out everything that I was doing so that I could follow up and know how my performance is, so that you reach a point where you're like, I think I might be good, and you're able to share it with someone. So that is that. And then the other thing that was very important was being accountable to someone. And for my case, because it was a very long time and I got tired, sometimes you get tired. So having someone who kind of like nudges you on, pushes you on, and asks how you're doing and checks on your progress is very important. And that was very helpful for me. At some point, I became unwell. Almost like 2 weeks towards the exam, I got COVID. And that is why I ended up doing my exams in December. I really wanted to do them in November. And Passcode advised me to wait for me to rest and to push the exam date to some other date, and I pushed it to December. So I had like 2 weeks of rest, and then I went back and prepared for 2 more weeks before I went back for the exam, because it's a very long exam. It can take as much as 5 hours sitting in there, and it can take as minimum, some people take 2 hours, some people take in between the number, but the maximum amount of time you can take is 5 hours. So to allow me to be able to feel better and be able to come back, I took the break and then postponed the exam for the period of time. In terms of postponing, for me, it didn't cost anything because I was here and I took the exam. It's kind of like a bus away from the exam center, so I just rescheduled without any cost implication. But if you're thinking about rescheduling it and you're traveling, like let's say to South Africa, or you're going to India, whichever place, you have to make other considerations. I think that's it. I want to mute shortly and get my charger before my laptop goes off. Otherwise, I can open it up for questions.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Thank you very much, Jerusha. Meanwhile, you can also be taking a glass of water. So just to pick up from what you've been able to point out, the issue, your pointers. For those who have just joined us, you pointed on the issue of timing as you begin applying for your NCLEX, or when you want to do your NCLEX. Be very intentional about timing. Be very intentional about the reason why you want to do NCLEX. Be very intentional with investing in resources. And the last point you were talking about is accountability. Having an accountability partner to push you through the journey. And so to this point, I would like to see if we have any questions in the forum meanwhile that Irina will handle. she comes on. If there's any person with a question, you can raise your hand. Then I will be allowed to speak. Yes, do you have a question? Yes, like I can already see one in the chat box from Carla. Carla is asking, how long did you prepare for the NCLEX exam? For how long did you prepare for the NCLEX exam? And then I'm going to allow, okay, the person has dropped his hand. I'm not sure if you can again raise it. Okay, fine. Jerusha, as you pick it up, would you mind telling us how long did you take to prepare for your NCLEX exam? Thank you, and
Yeah, thank you for that question. So it took me a total, between the time I started preparing my time schedule to the time I took the exam, that was 6 months, and that was not full-time 6 months. You remember I was also working and I was also in school, so I had set there's a lot of background noise. There's someone who's not muted. So I had set time for myself. I had 3 to 6 hours in a day for revision, depending on the day. 3 to 6 hours, depending on
Jerusha, you can kindly unmute yourself.
Oh my goodness. Sorry about that. So between the time I started the full preparation to the time I took the exams, it took me 5 months. That is the total time. However, in terms of how I was planning myself in during the week and the individual days, every day, at least every single day, I had 4 hours of study and question time. So the question times used to take 1.5 hours, while the remaining amount of time I used to go through the content. And it depends with how your mind works. For me, since I hadn't practiced for a very long time, I wanted to know my gaps. So I used to do the questions for that topic area, and then I review them to see where the gaps are, and I write those gaps down, and then I go back to the content area and go through everything. But for the areas that I already know, I just brush through and write short notes. And for the areas that I've totally forgotten, I go through them in depth. One thing I could say is consistency is the key. If you want to pass this exam, you have to be consistent. Follow your timetable to the T. Have a place a place where when you sit, that is the only place you always sit, and the only time you sit there is to do your revision and your NCLEX, so that your mind registers every time I sit here, it's only to revise for the exam. Once you do that and you consistently set that, then it's going to be easy for you to keep up with the rhythms, especially after you've done it for a whole month or 2 months. Every time that time reaches, you have to plan yourself around that. You also have to remember you have family. Some of us are wives, you need to cook, you have kids, you need to prepare to school or to go to sleep. So allocating time when you are available. Let's say, for example, if it's late night when the kids are asleep, then you have consistently this time. Let's say, for example, every day from 10 p.m. to midnight, this is your time when you're working at it. Or if you're a morning person, you say very early in the morning. I had a friend who used to wake up at 3 a.m., prepare for the exams up to around 6 a.m. and then they start preparing like the kids and also going to work. So weaving in that time and maintaining consistency, that is what I would recommend.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we can continue from where you had left. You can pick it up from there.
Okay, so I think the hassle, or that's what was remaining, which is very important, because is it worth it? it's preparing for the NCLEX exam is a torturous exam period, because that means you're cutting out yourself from going to events. You have to turn down your friends to go out or to attend like weddings and have fun things. And sometimes you might feel like you're missing out. And when you ask yourself in terms of, is it worth it? In my case, I would say it's very worth it, because it opened a wide array of opportunities for me. Currently, as I'm studying, I'm also an NCLEX RN trainer at my university. I'm currently at the University of Washington as a student, but also as a trainer. And through this training, they get to pay for my tuition fee and pay me a stipend. So I'm a student and I'm also getting paid for that. So it has opened this wide array of opportunities for me. I'm able to practice on an hourly basis. You don't need to be, because there's so many opportunities for nurses here as compared to Kenya, you're able to practice depending on what times you are available. So I'm able to practice on an hourly basis. And I would say that you pay relatively well. Basically, like the starting salary for an RN who has not, like you just recently graduated, it starts from $96,000 per annum. And it goes up to as high as $150 per annum. So that is around 1.5 per year. And if you kind of like subdivide it, it's around 100,000 per month. So what I would say, it's very worth it. And you're doing your work and you're being reimbursed for the work you're doing. So you couldn't say that you're being overworked and then you're not being reimbursed. I feel like you have all the support that need, they have all the resources that you need. You're not improvising because most of the facilities have everything that you need to support you. And if you're looking for satisfaction and you're also looking to progress yourself, it's easier. Some institutions allow you to work in their hospitals and pay for your fee if you want to progress and do like a master's or a PhD program, which is a plus. And then you can always apply for loans while you're working and be able to pay for them. If you're able, if you work through, if you come through these agencies, they're able to process your visa documentations for you and your family. And you know, when you're thinking about the NCLEX exam, the big picture is having these opportunities for you and your family. If you have kids, you want them to have the best education. And being in the US, it gives us like a wide array of opportunities, and the education system is very good. So that is why I would say it is worth the hassle if you're looking for better opportunities. That is where I'll end at, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Jerusha. Wow, I like the punch, the last punch of is it worth it? Is the struggle and the hustle worth it? And before we take a question, I see Mercy Musau, you have a question. But we just have one more thing to handle, and then we will take the questions. And Mercy, I'll give you the first the mic as the first person. So Dennis, if you are still around, now Jerusha has talked to us on the tricks that she used to pass her NCLEX exam. And Dennis, being the program manager for Passcode, yeah, he's going to share with us how they have structured their NCLEX program. How do you get admission? What are the costs? So that we get the entire package together. Thank you so much, Dennis.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Donald, and thank you, Jerusha, for that insightful talk. Having personally taken you through the registration for NCLEX, I'm very proud of you. For now, I'm going to talk about our NCLEX package, what it entails, how do you get admitted into the program, and how we run the revision program. Basically, I will talk about the NCLEX cost. Our NCLEX revision program goes for 30,000 for a period of 4 months. Through the 4 months, we will take you through the 10 modules. That is the entire syllabus of the NCLEX. That is, will take you through all the test strategy opportunity text. We take you through the NCLEX program. That is the syllabus, the entire syllabus, and what it entails. We also bring in speakers who will tell you what, who will speak to you on what is new in the NCLEX. Like now you are aware that now we are doing the new generation NCLEX. So as I've mentioned, our NCLEX is takes 4 months, a period of 4 months, which you pay 30,000. Then after paying 30,000, you will be, our tutors will share you with materials, and we will also give you logins to our online learning portal. That is where we will get access to the class recordings that happens, because we understand that most of you, maybe you are working and maybe you like to study NCLEX. So we usually, every class recording that we usually have, usually I record them in our online learning portal. Another key thing about our program is that we also help you with the NCLEX registration from the point of where you are doing the CS application. That is, either you choose to go with CGFNS or Joseph and Shinley Advocates. We will advise you accordingly on which organization to go with. That. For the entire NCLEX registration package, we charge 20,000. That entails from the CS application, the board of nursing registration. We'll help you with the fingerprint application. Then finally, registration to Pearson View. That is you registering with Pearson View and booking the exam. So for the entire registration, we charge a fee of 20,000. Another key aspect about our NCLEX process is that our classes are offered online on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. We also do customize the meeting with our clients to ensure that you are not left behind when it comes to NCLEX revision program. We have various tutors who are going to take you through the NCLEX materials, and we usually do a mock test to our clients before we advise them to proceed and take the NCLEX exam. Donald, I think I'm ready now. I've talked about our NCLEX package, and I think we can open this venture to the Q&A session.
I would like
Okay,
to
I think,
sorry to interrupt.
yes, Jerusha.
Yeah. So one thing I like about Passcode, and that was very helpful for me because of the time difference. The classes were at night and that was my morning and I needed to go to school. So having the recordings were very helpful. But the other trick would be, especially for those who plan on, like, if you're not able to join and you want to follow with the recordings, is having a consistent time of checking in with the recording so that you're not left far behind. So that if the class was today in the evening and you're not able to, make sure the following day, first thing, you're able to watch through the recording and follow up so that they don't leave you far behind. But that was one of the pluses that I loved about Passcode. The other thing was the processing of the documentation. One thing I can tell you, that processing is torturous. Especially following up with the nursing council, you need someone to always be there consistently, someone that they know to be able to process the paperwork for you and to send them directly, because I used CGFNS, for them to send them directly to CGFNS. And also, I also needed my documents authorized from the University of Nairobi and to be sent directly to CGFNS. So there needs to be someone who will consistently follow on that. And then at the CGFNS, it takes a long time. I remember there was a time I was almost giving up because they took too long to review the documentation. And in my mind, I was waiting for them to finish reviewing before I start reading, which was not correct. Immediately you start this process, start revising, don't wait. So I waited for too long and talked to Passcode, and they were able to accelerate that process. That is one of the good things with working with them, because they already have this relationship, they're able to talk to them and make requests, especially when you feel you're ready and you want your paperwork to be done. That is very helpful. The other thing is, especially when booking with Pearson VUE, having someone who checks in, because sometimes they reschedule, sometimes they can reschedule your exam. And having someone who consistently checks in and sees if there was something to do with the weather, if, for example, if you're going to South Africa and there were some demonstrations and they feel like it will not be safe for people to have exams on that day, having someone who consistently advocates for you so that even if they change the date, it doesn't affect you and you don't incur any costs because of the travel and anything, it's very helpful to have that person, because you also have your life that is going on. You have like your work, you have your family, you also have to read. So these things of registration, having someone like cover that aspect so that you can concentrate on this side, that worked perfectly for me. Thanks.
Oh, wow, thank you very much for that addition. That has been well emphasized, and I think I'll have a follow-up question on that one. But before that, I'll direct this one to Dennis. At least I'm aware that today's forum has people from different countries. I can see quite a number. We'll be able to recognize them. Now, the cost that you were quoted earlier, they were quoted in terms of Kenya shillings. Would you mind probably quoting these charges in terms of dollars?
Okay, thank you, Donald. Maybe I can do a breakdown of our costs. We'll start with the NCLEX review program. That is our revision program. That entails taking you through the NCLEX revision. And for the NCLEX review program, we charge a cost of $300 for the NCLEX review program. Then NCLEX registration, that is the entire NCLEX registration for the time, that is I mentioned, from the starting with the CS application up to the time you book for your exam, we charge $200. Then there's an individual cost that you are going to pay for every application. So I will start with the CES application. Either you can choose to go with CGFNS. Currently, CGFNS, they charge $450 for the CS application, or you can go with Joseph and Shingley Advocates, which charges $400. So the organization you are going to choose, it varies with your preferences. For us, we are going to advise you. We'll tell you about which one is the advantage and disadvantage of each other. But basically, that is the cost for the CS application. Then on the board application registration, we are going to advise you on which board of nursing to go with. But we also do customize the request. If, for example, you want to go with maybe Montana Board of Nursing, we will tell you that for that Board of Nursing, these are the requirements. If we are able to meet them, we'll do it for you. So we mostly do Texas Board of Nursing, which charges $75, or New Mexico Board of Nursing, that is which charges $150 for the application. Then the next process is the fingerprint. So those are the individual costs that you are going to pay. You're not going to pay to Passcode. You are going to pay for the application fee. For the fingerprint for Texas, they go with Identigo, which charges $38.25. Then for New Mexico, they go with Gelmato, which charges $44. After you are done with that, now you are remaining with Pearson VUE. You know that you are closer to getting your ATT. For Pearson VUE registration, it's $200. And then booking for the exam is $150. So in total for Pearson VUE registration and booking the exam is $350. I think I've addressed that concern, Donald.
Thank you very much for the breakdown. That was really helpful. I hope we've been taking notes and may be able to maybe ask a question or a clarification on that. So I'm going to take questions from the forum, and I see Kezia is up, but we'll begin with Mercy, then we'll have Kezia Anunda. So Mercy, you can hear me, I've set you a prompt to unmute. You can unmute and ask your question. Mercy Musau. Okay, as we wait for Mercy Musau, then I'll go with Kezia. Kezia, I've sent you a prompt to unmute.
Hi.
Tell us where you are from, and then you can ask the question. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Kezia Nunda. I'm from Kenya. I'm a nurse in Kenya. So I have a question for Wako. I'd like to know how long it takes for CGFNS to get the CGFNS certificate, or for them to process our documents and we get the CES report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kezia. I see a second hand. That is.
And then the second question.
Yes, Kezia.
Yeah, to Jerusha. Thank you for the good presentation and for encouraging us to study. My question is, she talked about simple nursing, and I always see many YouTube videos with different contents. Which ones are best apart from simple nursing? If maybe she can just tackle that so that we are able to understand. Thank you.
All right. I see 3 more hands, so we'll go with Willa. Willa, I've sent you a prompt to unmute. So greet us, tell us where you're from, then you can ask your question.
I'm Willa from Zambia. Yes, so my question is, this is my first time joining such a meeting. Yes, it's quite encouraging. I wanted to ask on the procedure, how do I enroll for the next modules, and how do I do the payments and everything? And if also you have like a group that will be having the online, like earlier explained. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Willa. Although we didn't get you very well, we are breaking, but if I'm able to paraphrase, you're asking for people who are outside Kenya, how are you able to make payments? Do we have an online portal or a system in which payments can be made? I believe that was your question, and I'll direct it to Dennis. And then the last question, I'll ask Francesca. Francesca, I've sent you the prompt.
Hello.
Hello, Francesca.
Hello.
Welcome very much.
Yeah. My name is Francisca and I'm speaking from Ghana. Please, I want to know if you had an agency. Are they supposed to register the CFDNS for you, or you do it yourself? That's my question.
Okay, thank you very much, Francesca from Ghana, and welcome very much. I see Mercy is back, so we'll take the question from Mercy and then allow Jerusha and Dennis to handle those and get more questions if we'll have. So Mercy, you can ask your question. Yes, Mercy, I've sent you a prompt to unmute yourself. Okay. Probably just type the question if you're having any challenges with accessing your mic. You could still type it, and it will be answered live. I'll begin with Dennis. There are around 3 questions that were directed to you. One was on payment. Do we have an online payment system for persons who are interested and are outside Kenya? And maybe do we have those kinds of students, that nature of students right now with Passcode? And then does the agency allowed to apply for the CGFNS on behalf of the candidates? the other question was on what? Okay, I think those are the two questions directed to you. Over to you, Dennis.
Thank you, Donald. I will start with the question for how long it takes for CGFNS to issue the credential evaluation service, that is the CS report. CGFNS takes around 2 to 3 months, but from recently, there are students who have waited up to 6 months, unfortunately. This is because of the backlog that is they are currently experiencing. Currently, there are a lot of application. People are making a lot of application for the CS report to CGFNS, and unfortunately, we have people who have waited up to 6 months for that. The fortunate thing about Passcode is that we have a direct client who whenever we have issued the CGFNS, is able to mediate our case to CGFNS and maybe expedite the process. So on the exact timeline, I'm not able to tell you that CGFNS will take this exact timeline. In their policy, they state 2 to 3 months, but unfortunately, it can take longer, or it can take a few timeline than they state in their policy. So on the exact timeline, I'm not able to tell you that. On the payment mode, Passcode, we have online payment. We do accept PayPal payment, and we also do accept direct money transfers. And even in our recent classes, we have clients from foreign countries. We have clients from Zimbabwe, Ghana, Nigeria. So we do accept payment in different modes, not specifically to the Kenyan payment platforms. We also have direct money transfers and also PayPal. There's also a question that was raised on what the agency does for you. So different apart is that different agencies have different, their contract are different. There are some agencies that will pay for you the whole process. There are some agencies that will cater for you half of the process. So on that, I'm not able to tell you that the agencies are mandated to pay you for the whole process. So it will depend on the type of contract you are with your agency. Thank you, Nonda.
Thank you very much, Dennis. I maybe just a follow-up to that one. So this question specifically, which is addressing, is the agency allowed to apply for CGFNS on behalf of the candidates? For example, does Passcode apply for CGFNS on behalf of their candidates?
Thank you. Yes, Passcode is an authorized agent. It's an authorized agent. It is authorized by CGFNS to do the application on behalf of clients. Yes, we do that.
All right, thank you. I hope, Francesca, you've been answered. And now we'll go to Jerusha. Jerusha, there were about 2 questions, if I'm not wrong. But I'm sure you noted them down. You can handle them. Take it over.
Were they 2 questions or 1 question? I remember the one of materials. What was the other question? I can't hear you.
Yes, there's a question on. Yes, there's a question on materials, and then there's a second question which was sent in the chat box. I'm sorry I did not read it to you, from Mercy. She asked that you talked of doing 4 hours of study per day, and 1.5 hours in the question banks, and the remaining hours on reviewing what you've done and vis-a-vis what you've scored. So how many questions were you able to do per day? in that time. And and supposing you are taking the question in a timed, were you taking the questions in a timed mode? So how many questions were you able to do in a day? Were you doing these questions in a timed mode, or it was a kind of a freestyle?
Mm-hmm. Let me start from the second question, which is the most important one. So remember I talked about selecting a specific place where you want to sit and do your revision. So one of the things you want to try from the beginning is to mimic the NCLEX AREN exam. But now you're mimicking it in your own home or wherever safe haven you have. So the room has to be quiet, and you have to be there consistently every day. So for the questions, every other day, which is like I used to skip the following day for revision, I used to do 60 questions for that topic. For the first three months, I did topic area questions every other day. And every day it had to be 60 questions. And for those 60 questions, I used to sit, do the questions from the beginning to the end without taking any pauses, without referring to anything, without Googling. I used to like to turn everything off. My phone was off. I had turned, I closed all the tabs and I only have like the question bank tab only. And I used to sit in a desk, so that you're mimicking that exam and you have your laptop in front of you so that it's kind of like mimics the exam period. And I used to do the 60 questions consistently from the beginning to the end. And by the time you finish, you're tired. So that's when I used to take the break. I work well at night. So what I did is when I scheduled my exam, I knew I was going to do my exam at the latest time possible. So I did my exam from 4:30 p.m. to whatever time I finished. I finished it in 1.5 hours. So that is the time I used to also revise for to do my questions. So I do the exams at that time. And then at night, I review the materials. But for the questions, to review those questions, I never used to review them the same day. I used to review the questions the following day, so that I have this period of time I'm recovering from the exam that I did, like the exhaustion of going through the exam. And I did this consistently for that period of time. And then after the first 2 months, I started focusing on the area that I was weak. You realize there were some areas I was scoring like still 40, even almost at month 4. So those were the areas I went back and focused on majorly. And then the ones that I was doing well, I started mixing up and doing random. I used Archer's question bank at some point, and there's a way, I can't remember what it's called. I need to check this, but it's kind of like randomly allocates questions for you and you do them, and it selects 75 questions. So by the time I was on the 4th month, I was doing 75 questions consistently. And by the time I was on the 5th month, I was doing 145 questions, but I used to take a break in between. So I do like 75, take a break, and then come back and continue, so that you're building the stamina and then your focus. The way when you look at the screen for a very long time, you start losing your focus. So you can judge at what point do you lose your focus. And the reason why I had the grades was to allow me to see the performance and then go back and see from question 1 to question 30, how many did I miss? Did I miss consistently at least 4 questions continuously? Because that means your curve is going down. I want to draw something here. Let me draw something. So there is, I know this might seem not making sense, but okay. I have 2 lines here. I hope you're able to see. There's one that kind of looks across from one point to the next, and then there's one that goes down. So when you're looking at the questions that you've done, you want to see if you had any questions that were consistently failing. So that means you're going down below the passing grade, because NCLEX does not have a point that you need to score 75 or 50 points. It's a pass or fail exam. So when you score 4.4, like consistently 4 or 5 questions, it means you're going below the passing point. The passing point is something that is average. So you're going down. So that's why you need to consistently see how you're performing and range yourself and focus on areas that you're not performing well. And then the other thing is how many questions per day? Timed mode. So that was timed mode. Always timed mode, and always take the, I need to confirm that type of mode, but you don't see the answers next, like the answer is not next. The answers come at the end of the exam because you don't need to predict how you're going to answer the exams. I think it's exam mode. That is the other one that you need to take. So the other question was around materials to use. Passcode provides you with free materials. They're gonna give you like the Sounders book. They also have some other books that they'll give you for free. There are others that you might require to pay for, like for the Archers and the UWorld, I paid for it. I think the UWorld, I paid for it for a whole year, and for the first 6 months, I didn't use it anyway. So, and for Archers, I only paid for it for 1 month because it was the final month, and I only took the question bank only. I didn't take the other items, so I paid like $28. I cannot remember how much I paid for UWorld. And then there are free resources that I used. So, and Passcode recommended, I think they've already tested several exams that they used, and I see it's been shared. There's some resources that have been shared. Simple Nursing, I used the free resource of Simple Nursing. It's readily available. They have YouTube videos. They have a free podcast that you can use. And I also used, it's called Nurse Lab. When I started, I was failing and I was feeling a bit discouraged. So I used Nurse Labs because it was very easy, but it's so easy. It allows you like to gauge yourself and also to motivate yourself. But as you progress, you need to go to more tougher question banks like UWorld and others. But whichever question bank you choose, stick to it consistently. At least choose one and stick to it consistently. There was another question I saw. So Francisca asked if, will the agency sponsor you and your family or part of the fee, especially the US? I can't speak to this because I didn't come here through an agency. I came here as a student and I haven't used an agency. I'm still attached to the school that sponsored me to come. But what I know, what I've heard from other people, I hear the agency usually sponsors you and your family. And I don't know their definition of a family, what the definition of a family is. I don't know if you have kids who are less than 21 years and married, that is the definition of family. But yes, I hear they do sponsor you and your family once you pass the exams and you meet all the required qualifications. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much. That one has been in depth, and I hope all the questions have been answered. I'm looking at my watch, and we should be closing in the next 5 minutes. There being no other question. So we're going to take a call to action from Jerusha and from Dennis. But just one thing that I might want also to point out about Passcode is that Passcode is a self-sponsored, provides you a self-sponsored program. That is, you as the candidate, you self-sponsor your studies, you self-sponsor your activities until you are airlifted. And so Passcode is there to ease in your life in terms of revision of NCLEX, ensuring that you pass with the flying colors. And so before we take the call to action, I would like us to clap for the different countries that have been that have logged in today. I see my good friend from UK, she's also in. And so if you don't mind, would you mind just typing in the chat box where you are joining us from? Then we'll be able to read those countries and see how represented we are today. If you can take a minute. Meanwhile, Dennis and Jerusha can be preparing your call to action points. Yes, I see Zambia, I see Kenya. Wow, thank you very much. I see Ghana again. I see Kenya again. I see Uganda, Tanzania. Wow, welcome very much, Susan Mawia from Kenya. Karibu sana. Are we leaving any other country out? I thought I saw somebody from South Africa. I'm seeing somebody from UK. Just type there from UK. Zambia again, Gladys, welcome very much. It has been an honor having all of you. I see Zimbabwe and Lovo. Welcome very much. We are happy to host you today. Well, Dennis, as the forum is continuing to tell us where they have joined us from, kindly give us your call to action in a minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Donald. My call to action will be that NCLEX is a doable exam. We have seen that there are other clients who have done it and passed it. As Passcode, you are committed to ensure that you are ready and prepared for NCLEX. We have competent tutors who understand how NCLEX is, and we have already done our intake. Our next intake is early June. So I've shared our contact on chat to be able to reach out to us. For those who are in Kenya, our offices are located in KTDA Plaza, floor 6, room 3, Passcode Global Consultants. Thank you. So my call to action will be that NCLEX is a doable exam. We are committed in working with you throughout the journey, and NCLEX is the place to consider for your NCLEX journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis. That should be the offices at that should be Mamangina Street, right?
Yeah, in Moi Avenue. Moi
Avenue. Okay.
Yes.
Moi Avenue in Nairobi, CBD. Thank you very much, Jerusha. Your call to action.
Thank you. I have said so many things today, and I'll just summarize it in this. If you are a nurse and you're looking for opportunities to expand your experiences, to be paid well, to build a better future for your family and yourself, the opportunities are there for you to explore. The NCLEX exam is a tough but doable exam. It's a passable exam. What I would say is consistency is the key. You need to know your why. Why are you doing the exam? And you need to maximize the resources that you're provided with to pass this exam. I wish you all the best, and I'm looking forward to seeing or hearing from most of you when you're here in the US. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerusha. And so we're going to do one more activity, then we come to the close. So I want us to do a group photo. So if you're in a position to put on your your camera, kindly please turn it on. Then I'll do a snapshot of our group photo. If you're able to turn on your camera. I see, thank you. Anybody else, if you're able to turn on your camera, we'll be happy to see your faces. Okay, thank you, Kate. All right, so I'm going to take already. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm taking a second one. Just hold it there. Okay, thank you very much. You can now turn them off if you're comfortable. And now, my name is Donald. I've been your moderator. I'm here in Kenya. I'm a registered nurse here in Kenya. I work as a quality assurance nurse for an organization that is in the US, in Springfield, Massachusetts. It has been an honor hosting all of you today, and I'm looking forward to hosting you again in our next webinar. Dennis will be able to communicate with us. And up to that end, I want to wish you a great night or a great evening for our friends who are in West Africa. For those ones of us who are in East Africa and maybe Southern, have a good night. And we are looking forward to your emails to Passcode. Thank you very much.